Hello everybody, in this video I have a mixed media process to share with you with the Thompson's Craft Supplies design team. I did this project quite a few weeks ago, so I may forget what I do here and there. This was actually a project I made as a present for my best friend's birthday, which is today, as in the day this video is being published. So happy birthday to my bestie. I hope you like your presents, including this one, which was kind of requested. She asked if she could have one of my mixed media pieces. So I'm working on this 5x7 flat canvas board, which is from the works. You can get a pack of 5, I think, for £2, which is a really good price. I did cover it with a layer of gesso, even though they probably already are gessoed. It doesn't hurt to add another layer. And then I just wanted to do some simple decoupage in the background. That first piece I put down with like the wood grain with the florals is a very old first edition decoupage paper, which may or may not be able to get a hold of. Might be able to get it somewhere like the Range. I don't know, I've had it for so long. And then I'm also adding a few bits of rice paper just from my stash of rice paper, these really pretty flowers, and I'm just adding those on with some clear gesso, using the clear gesso because obviously I'm going to put a lot of stuff over the top of this, and if I used like a gel medium or a PVA mix or Mod Podge or something, it would not be a good surface for other mixed media to adhere to on the top of that. Here I am using some Dina Wakley acrylic paint in Carnation just to add some nice pink colouring around the sides. Pink is kind of very much what my bestie's colour, especially this kind of pink, so I just wanted to add a fair bit of that around the edges. You can just see to the right of my mixed media mat there, I've already fussy cut the pieces I'm going to use on this canvas. They are all from the Mintay Beauty and Bloom paper pack, and this is from like the cover sheet where the reverse has lots and lots of beautiful images on. And I wanted to use this for Alice, my bestie, because it had bunnies on and she loves bunnies, so I fussy cut those 2 bunnies and they were going to be very much my sort of focal point for this project. Here I'm just adding some stenciling with some paper paste. In the background, the stencil is a brick wall stencil from Marry Small Art. And then here I'm just adding a little bit of background stamping with archival ink in Shadow Grey. And this first stamp is a Finnabair text stamp. Sorry if you heard that bang, that was someone slamming a door. And then the other one I'm going to use is a Kaisercraft scripty font stamp. Both have been available at Thompson's Craft Supplies before. I don't know if they're available at the moment, but if they are, I will link them. So with that background stuff done, I started playing around with where I was going to place all those little fussy cut bits and pieces, but then I decided the stenciling needed to be a bit more highlighted kind of thing. You couldn't really see it that well. So I'm taking Distress Oxide Spray in Victorian Velvet and just kind of using it as a paint and brushing it on, painting it on around the edges of the brickwork stencil. So it's kind of like the bricks are pink kind of thing, because the stencil is more the outline of a brick wall. So yeah, and then I just took some water just to blend that a bit more and move the colour around a little bit. And then when I was happy with all of that stuff done with Distress Oxide Spray, I wanted to add a little bit of some wax paste just to highlight some areas. This is Pentart wax paste in Rose Gold. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of areas around the brickwork stencil, but I also wanted to go around the edges with it, add a little bit of depth to the edges with that, because it's a darker pink than I've already used, but it's also super sparkly. So as well as adding depth, it also highlights it as well because of how flipping sparkly it is. And I'm also going around all of the edges of the canvas board with that wax, just so you don't have like a white edge that's a bit garish, you know, on the side of the project. When it just makes the whole project look a bit more complete and finished if you do something around the edges. So I played around with this wax paste for quite a while. I'm just using a very old dry brush to stipple it on in places, mostly, as I said, around the edges, and then I think I did add a few little bits around the brickwork as well. I left that to dry for a while and then decided, even though I liked all my fussy cut pieces, I wanted to add a little bit more dimension to the piece. So I grabbed this little chipboard piece, which I can't remember exactly where it's from. It might be an AB Studio piece. I coloured the flower sections with that Dina Wakley paint, and then I'm going to use Nouveau Embellishment Mousse. This one is Spring Green, to colour the leaves, and then get embellishment mousse in, I think it's Poppy Pink, to add a little bit more colour or colours I mentioned to the little flower sections. And I'm using a brush to add the embellishment mousse rather than my finger, just to give it that more, again, stipply, dry effect. It's a look I prefer rather than the rubbing it in with your fingers style. I don't know why. And now I'm just going to start placing down all my pieces and gluing them on. I'm going to go around the edges of everything with Distress Oxide in Victorian Velvet, also adding it to that wooden piece again just to add a little bit of dimension. And sorry, I just got distracted by a text message. That's really, really bad. But it's from the NHS. You know, you get a message from the NHS and you're like, what? What is it? But it's just telling me that an appointment I've got has been changed to a telephone appointment for obvious reasons. Anyway, that was a total sidebar there. So yeah, just putting down all my little embellished pieces, making sure the bunnies really, really stand out, but also covering them like with flowers around them so they look all pretty and like little bunnies, I don't know, hopping around a flowery garden or a meadow or something like that. With all that down, I wanted to add more dimension, so I've got these cute little white wooden flowers. These are also from the works, and I'm just going to put 3 of those down with gloss gel medium. I think I left that to dry for a while so all the bits wouldn't move around as I was adding things. And then I wanted to add more flowers. I think I fussy cut a few more little bits from the paper pad, or the paper pack, sorry. Just some really, really tiny sort of little rosebuddy things and mini hydrangeas just to kind of fill in any awkward gaps. You can see like between the larger bunny and that wooden piece, there's a couple of slightly awkward gaps and they just look a bit, they were annoying me. So I just wanted to fill those in. Those teeny tiny flowers I'm using, those are from Hobbycraft. I know they look very, very pink on the project at the moment, but I am going to tone them down with some gesso a little bit later on once I've got all my other bits and pieces down. So next I'm going to bring in some of the Prima flowers that came in my kit and just add a couple of the really light ones from that, 2 pink ones and like a little cream one that has like pretty writing and stuff on. But here I'm doing what I said I was going to do and just dry brush some gesso on those really bright pink flowers just to make them into a much lighter pink and match the whole rest of the project. Then I'm going to stick down my flowers and then I'm going to go back with putting gesso over things. Oh, and I'm just going to add Victorian Velvet around my little sort of title or sentiment or whatever you want to call it, but I don't know if I stick it down just yet. Yes, I do. I'm also adding a little foam dot on one side of that because it's partially going over the chipboard, so otherwise it would have been wonky. So I'm just balancing it out, making sure everything is level. But yes, here I am going back in with the gesso. It just kind of, I don't know, it's just like a really great way of making sure everything works together. You can still see the colours of everything and stuff like that. It's just that having that slight hazy layer of that gesso, just everything works together. And I was also dabbing it around some of the edges of all the other embellishments, adding them as like little highlights and stuff. And then I'm going back to that rose gold wax paste to use that as low lights. Low lights? That doesn't sound right. But you know, I've highlighted it with the gesso and then adding little darker spots with that wax paste as well. Again, just adding loads and loads of depth and stuff to the canvas. And here I just need to add my finishing touches. So I'm going to add splatters, of course, using my usual white Winsor & Newton ink to add some white splatters. There's obviously a very sort of pinky, shabby, chic-y kind of look to this whole thing, so white splatters were absolutely needed. I'm just making sure there's no splatters like on the bunnies' faces or anything like that, so if anything lands on the bunnies I'm just rubbing it off. And then adding some Nouveau drops. They are vintage drops, so they're going to dry with a matte finish. I'm using the chalk stick colour, which is just white, and the Dusty Rose, which is a really light sort of blush pink. It's really, really pretty. It goes very nicely with the whole pink aesthetic, light pink aesthetic of the whole thing. And there it is finished. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope my bestie liked this present, as well as something else handmade that I did for her, which will be shared on my Instagram, not here, but yes. Anyways, please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Links down in the description box as always. Chat to me down in the comments. I am now going. Thank you again. Bye bye.